The story begins with a boy named Matt Murdock who lived in the Hell's Kitchen area of New York. The boys in his neighborhood often bullied him. Matt's father, Jack, was once a well-known boxer, but after Matt was born, he gave up boxing and became an alcoholic. Despite his addiction, Jack worked hard to earn money for Matt's education because he wanted to give his son a better future. One day, Matt discovered that his father was working for gangsters. Matt had always looked up to Jack as his hero, but when he saw his father threatening innocent people, he was heartbroken and ran away. Just then, he was about to be hit by a truck, but in an attempt to save him, the driver swerved, causing barrels of dangerous chemicals to spill onto the road. Some of the chemicals splashed on Matt, and although he lost his eyesight, his other senses became incredibly enhanced. He could now perceive his surroundings without seeing. When Matt woke up from his coma, he was frightened because he didn't know how to handle his new abilities. Shortly after, Jack came to his room and told him the devastating news that he had lost his eyesight. But Matt already knew. Instead of breaking down, Matt gave his father courage, as Jack was filled with guilt, blaming himself for what had happened. Over the next few months, Matt learned to live without sight through hard work. Inspired by Matt's spirit, Jack decided to return to boxing. After months of rigorous training, he made a comeback in the ring. Inspired by his father's efforts, Matt also began boxing practice. He soon realized that his senses of hearing and touch were growing even sharper. He had become so skilled that it felt like the entire city was his playground. Fear had vanished from his life, and even the bullies in his neighborhood couldn't lay a finger on him anymore. If anyone tried to mess with him, Matt would teach them a harsh lesson. One night, after returning from the ring, Jack was visited by a man named Fallon, the boss of the gang Jack worked for. Fallon wanted Jack back on the job, but Jack refused. That's when Fallon revealed the truth. All the opponents Jack had defeated were working for him and were instructed to lose. Fallon had placed a bet on Jack losing that night, and he expected Jack to throw the fight. Jack, to protect his and Matt's life, agreed to lose. But as he lay on the mat, he heard Matt's voice cheering him on, giving him the strength to rise and unleash a powerful blow that knocked out his opponent. Fallon was furious and didn't take the defeat lightly. That very night, his goons caught Jack and beat him to death. By the time Matt reached him, Jack was already gone. Devastated and alone, Matt vowed to help the helpless and punish those who oppressed others. 20 years later, Matt had become an exceptional lawyer. Thanks to his enhanced senses, he could instantly detect lies. He did everything he could to ensure justice for his clients. But sometimes criminals would buy the law with money. In such cases, Matt would take justice into his own hands, donning his Daredevil costume at night and going on missions. We then see a criminal named Jose Quesada, who had committed a horrible crime against a woman a few months ago, but had bribed a judge to secure bail. While he was out celebrating in a bar, Daredevil showed up. Jose's men opened fire at him, but not a single bullet touched him. Using his acute hearing, he dodged the bullets and took down all the goons. After beating them, Daredevil turned to his main target. Jose fled with a revolver and hid at a train station. Daredevil silently approached him from behind and caught him. Just as he was about to finish him off, a train roared by, causing Daredevil immense pain due to his sensitive hearing. Taking advantage of the distraction, Jose pulled out his gun and tried to shoot, but Daredevil pushed him onto the tracks. A speeding train ran over him, splitting his body in two. Soon after, a man named Ben arrived to collect evidence to prove Daredevil's involvement. Meanwhile, when Matt got home, he started showering. Suddenly, he heard the faint sound of a woman being shot. To recover from the overload on his ears, he submerged them in water all night. The next morning, when Matt met his partner Foggy, he learned from a newspaper that Daredevil was suspected in Jose's death. Matt dismissed it as fiction, claiming that Daredevil wasn't real. But Foggy was convinced Daredevil was real and hoped to meet him one day. Foggy then suggested they take on more cases, as so far they'd only defended innocent clients who couldn't pay much. But Matt refused to work for criminals, saying it was unethical. Suddenly, Matt heard the sound of a girl approaching. That's when a girl named Electra walked into the restaurant, and Matt instantly became mesmerized by her scent. He went to talk to her, but even after chatting for a while, she didn't reveal her name and left with her coffee. Matt couldn't stop thinking about her and decided to follow her. When Electra realized she was being followed, she attacked Matt. Despite being blind, he easily defended himself. Kids playing nearby gathered to watch the fight. Eventually, Matt defeated Electra, but she retaliated by pushing him onto a bench with a leg sweep. Pleased with her victory, she finally told him her name. Her bodyguards then arrived, and Electra left, promising to see him again. Matt learned that she was the daughter of a billionaire businessman named Nicholas Nachios. Elsewhere, Nicholas met with the Kingpin. He wanted to end their partnership because constant threats had put his family at risk. So he offered to sell his share of the business to Wilson Fisk. Back at the office, Matt met a new client named Steve, who had been accused of murdering a girl named Lisa. But within minutes of talking to him, Matt sensed that Steve was innocent and agreed to take his case. To find the real killer, Matt decided to investigate Lisa's home secretly. By touching the carpet and smelling the blood, he realized Lisa had been shot inside the house and then dragged out. Touching the table, he felt some letters and numbers and asked Foggy to write them down in his notebook. Several weeks later, Steve was presented in court, and Matt submitted all the evidence he had gathered to prove his innocence. After the hearing, Electra came to meet Matt, and he was overjoyed. He took her to the rooftop of an old building where he used to watch the city as a child. Matt predicted it would rain soon. He could hear each raindrop as it hit the ground. When the rain touched his eyes, it felt as if he could see again. At that moment, he saw Electra's beauty and decided to kiss her. But just then, he heard the sound of a fight nearby. Reluctantly, he bid Electra goodbye and went off to fulfill his duty. He soon found the gangster and beat him up, warning him to stay away from Hell's Kitchen. But the thug revealed that the entire area now belonged to the Kingpin. Then Daredevil saw the gangster's son crying in fear. This broke Matt's heart. The next morning, he went straight to church, where he met Father Lantom, who told him he was always welcome to seek peace there. Later, at the office, Matt received an invitation to a party with a +1. Foggy quickly volunteered to join him. At the hotel, journalist Ben Urich approached Matt and gave him his card, saying he had something important to discuss. Just then, Foggy spotted Wilson Fisk and rushed to introduce himself and his law firm, hoping to land a big client. But Matt immediately declined, saying their firm only took on innocent clients and could never represent someone like Fisk. As soon as he said that, he walked into the hall looking for Electra. Within moments, he was able to reach her by following her scent. Matt apologized to Electra for that night because he had suddenly left her. After that, the two began to dance together. Meanwhile, we see that a dangerous thug named Bullseye had arrived in New York, and he killed an innocent man and stole his motorcycle. On the other side, Nicholas smiled as he watched his daughter dancing with Matt. Just then, Wilson secretly arrived, ended their partnership, and placed a rose in Nicholas's pocket. At that very moment, Nicholas realized his life was in danger, so he immediately began to leave with his bodyguards. When Electra saw her father leaving, she sensed that something was wrong and went to talk to him. But Nicholas told Electra to go back home with the bodyguards. Electra didn't fully understand what was going on, but still, she said goodbye to Matt and got into her limousine. Matt, on the other hand, was worried about Electra's safety, so he quickly put on his costume and went after her. Soon, he saw a man on a motorcycle chasing Electra at high speed. Matt realized that Electra and Nicholas were in danger. Meanwhile, Bullseye threw 2 blades from his belt and killed the driver and bodyguard of Electra's car. Suddenly, Electra's limousine crashed into a van. Bullseye was ready to attack Electra, but just in time, Daredevil arrived and saved her. Bullseye threw a sharp blade at Daredevil, but he dodged it just in time. Seeing this, Bullseye was stunned because his aim had never missed before. Now Bullseye decided to eliminate the obstacle in his path, Matt. So he tried to run him over with his bike, but Matt kicked him hard in the head and threw him away. The truth was, Kingpin had sent Bullseye to eliminate Nicholas. Then Bullseye snatched Daredevil's baton and threw it straight at Nicholas. This time, his aim was spot on. Electra thought that the person attacking her father was Daredevil. In that moment, she opened fire on Daredevil, shooting him repeatedly. When her bullets ran out, she sat beside her father and burst into tears because it was now too late to get him to a hospital. After Nicholas's death, when Matt returned home, he was furious with himself. He hated himself for failing to protect the woman he liked. The next day, Bullseye killed one of Kingpin's security guards and barged into his office. Kingpin praised him, as Bullseye had not only killed Nicholas, but had also pinned the blame on Daredevil. But Bullseye still wasn't satisfied, because for the first time in his life, he had missed his mark. Now, to avenge that failure, he decided to kill Daredevil. Meanwhile, Electra held a funeral for her father, where Wilson Fisk was also present. When Electra was heading toward her car, Matt came to meet her. It started raining, and for a brief moment, Matt was able to see Electra again. Before leaving, Electra said she would take revenge for her father's death. Matt told her that vengeance wouldn't make anything better, but Electra ignored him and left. Just then, Ben came to Matt and said he had crucial information that could help in Steve's case. Ben revealed that Lisa used to be his informant, but she had fallen in love with one of Kingpin's goons. Lisa had told Ben about a man named Officer McKenzie, who had testified against Steve in court. With this information, that night, Matt broke into McKenzie's car, handcuffed him, and drove recklessly, causing several near accidents to scare the truth out of him. Eventually, McKenzie confessed that he had given false testimony in court under pressure from Kingpin. He admitted that anyone who disobeys Kingpin ends up like Nicholas. Kingpin was so dangerous that he wouldn't even spare his enemies' families. That meant Electra could be the next target. Elsewhere, Foggy spent the night at the office investigating Lisa's murder. With the help of his secretary Karen, he realized that the clue Matt found at Lisa's house was actually upside down. Soon, he deciphered that WAO actually stood for Wesley Owen Welch, a man who worked for Wilson Fisk. The next morning, Ben met his friend at the morgue, who showed him the baton that had killed Nicholas. As soon as they turned the button at the bottom of the baton, a metal rod emerged. It turned into a blind man's walking stick. Just then, Foggy called Ben to tell him that he had found a major lead in Lisa's case. Later that night, Matt was preparing to confront Bullseye, while Electra was training hard, improving her fighting skills so she could avenge her father's death. A short while later, when Daredevil went out in search of Bullseye, Electra suddenly launched a fierce sword attack on him. Daredevil defended himself while trying to explain that he hadn't killed Nicholas, but Electra wouldn't listen. In their scuffle, Matt kept dodging all her attacks and didn't strike back even once. He was trying to show her that he wasn't her enemy, but Electra wouldn't stop and, in the end, stabbed Daredevil in the chest with her sword. Before leaving, she said she wanted to look her father's killer in the eyes, so she removed Daredevil's mask. Seeing her boyfriend in front of her, the ground slipped from under Electra's feet. She realized that Matt really hadn't killed her father. A few moments later, Bullseye also arrived, and Matt quickly told Electra to hide. But Electra didn't back off. Instead, she hurled a knife toward Bullseye in an attempt to take revenge. However, Bullseye caught the knife midair and threw it back at her, striking her directly in the palm. Electra, with great difficulty, pulled the knife out of her hand and, ignoring her pain, set out to fight Bullseye. But Bullseye was a seasoned fighter who had never lost a fight. Within moments, he threw Electra away and attacked her with a playing card, making her neck bleed. Seeing his girlfriend in danger, Matt tried to help her, but he was so severely injured that he couldn't even stand. Meanwhile, Bullseye lifted Electra by the neck and stabbed her in the stomach with a sword, ensuring she had no chance of survival. Just then, a police helicopter appeared in the sky. They ordered Bullseye to get on his knees, but Bullseye simply tossed a rose at Electra and fled from the scene. Electra was gravely injured but somehow crawled toward Matt because she wanted to take her last breath in his arms. In just a few moments, Matt could no longer hear her heartbeat and realized that Electra was no longer alive. At that moment, he heard the sound of the police approaching, so he disappeared, leaving Electra's body behind. Detective Nick later found Electra's body. Meanwhile, Matt was hiding in a church to escape the police. Father Lantom treated his wounds there. Before long, Bullseye broke into the church and threw a knife near Father Lantom as a way of announcing his arrival. Immediately, Daredevil told the father to escape through the back door and alert the police. Then, a fierce battle broke out between Daredevil and Bullseye. Bullseye launched multiple attacks on him, but Daredevil countered them using his signature baton. He managed to injure Bullseye, and when Bullseye tried to escape, Daredevil chased after him. Both of them ended up hanging from the pillars of the church. Suddenly, a swarm of bats attacked them. Daredevil fell from the pillar, but before hitting the ground, he used his rope to pull himself back up and resumed the fight with Bullseye. In this intense battle, Bullseye realized he was about to lose. So he tried to run away, but Matt didn't stop chasing him. Bullseye threw all his blades at Daredevil at once, but Daredevil caught them midair and hurled them back at Bullseye. The blade struck Bullseye on the forehead, and he crashed through the church's stained glass window. Bullseye then gathered shards of broken glass and tried to attack Daredevil again, but this time too, Daredevil dodged them unharmed. In the end, Bullseye came up with a strategy. He began ringing the church bell loudly, knowing the sound would cause Daredevil immense pain. His plan worked, as Daredevil was now suffering terribly, covering his ears. Meanwhile, the police had entered the church. Bullseye continued to torture Daredevil with the noise and launched a brutal assault on him. During their confrontation, Bullseye revealed that Wilson Fisk was the real Kingpin. Whenever Wilson's goons killed someone, they would leave a rose behind as a calling card. Upon hearing this, Matt realized that many years ago, his father was also murdered by Wilson's men. Just as Bullseye was about to stab Matt in the heart, Daredevil stopped him at the last second. At that moment, he heard a gunshot from the police and pushed Bullseye's hand forward, causing the bullet to hit Bullseye instead. Wounded, Bullseye fell to his knees in front of Daredevil. Then Daredevil picked him up and threw him out the window, where he crashed straight onto Ben's car windshield. After this, Daredevil set out to finish Kingpin's chapter. When he reached Wilson Fisk's building, he found that Wilson was already waiting for him. Fighting Wilson wasn't going to be easy. He was incredibly strong. Wilson picked up Matt and slammed him through a glass door. The shattering sound caused Matt immense pain, and Wilson took advantage of the moment to slam him against the wall. Wilson then pulled out a rose from his desk and removed Daredevil's mask. Seeing Matt's real face, he was stunned. He couldn't believe that a blind lawyer was New York's most powerful superhero. Just as Wilson was about to decapitate him, Matt activated the sprinkler system. As water poured down, Matt could now see his enemy clearly and launched a powerful attack on Wilson. At the same time, he heard the sound of approaching police cars. Using a nearby radio, he overheard that Ben had informed Detective Nick about Kingpin's real identity. Wilson would now be arrested and spend the rest of his life in prison. Finally, Matt left him there and returned home. The next day, Steve was acquitted of all charges because Foggy had proven in court that Wesley had killed Lisa on Wilson's orders. Later in the day, Matt visited Father Lantom at the church, where he ran into Ben. Ben told him he was working on his next article titled Blind Justice. In it, he planned to reveal Daredevil's true identity to the world. However, when Ben finished writing the article, he decided to delete everything. Because if Daredevil wasn't out there on the streets, who knows what the criminals would start doing. If you enjoyed the video, Make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.